All right, hello and welcome. We're joined today by NFL legend Ray Lewis. Who put that in a copy? Legend? I don't know about that. And Colin's co-host on The Herd, Christine Leahy, my favorite host. All right, let's start with Cam Newton, who got himself into some trouble yesterday, giving a patronizing response to a question about one of his receivers from a female reporter.
Cam, I know you take a lot of pride in seeing your receivers play well. Devin Funchess has seemed to really embrace the physicality of his routes and getting those extra yards. Does that give you a little bit of an enjoyment to see him kind of truck sticking people out there?
It's funny to hear a female talk about routes. Like, it's funny. But fun is coming along, man. This is a big game for him.
All right, the reporter addressed the incident saying, quote, "I did my job as an NFL beat writer and asked Cam Newton a question about one of his receivers. I was dismayed by his response, which not only belittled me, but countless other women before me and beside me who work in similar jobs. I sought Mr. Newton out as he left the locker room a few minutes later. He did not apologize." Panthers coach Ron Rivera was asked about Cam's comments this afternoon.
I think Cam made a mistake. I understand he had a conversation where he pretty much said that he shouldn't have said what he said. And so as far as I'm concerned, what I'd like to do is talk about getting ready for the Detroit Lions, who we play on Sunday.
All right, because of the comments, Cam lost his sponsorship with Dan and Yogurt today. Cowherd, were you surprised by Cam's response to the female reporter?
Yeah, I mean, he's not very mature. He hasn't been mature. I think I've never seen a player in the NFL pandered to as much as Cam Newton. When he pouted after games, well, I mean, it happens. And then after the Super Bowl, well, he was really emotional. Remember this offseason when the coaching staff said, and I thought it was a harmless comment by the coaching staff at Carolina, you know, he was kind of shaken this year with all, and he went to Instagram and said, they're throwing shade. Like, are you into social media or are you a quarterback? Are you a grown-up or are you a kid? This is a continuing pattern of a really talented guy who continues to be really immature.
Yeah, there's easy mistakes he could avoid. Remember he wouldn't wear a suit and then gotten benched for a play by Ron Rivera. The easy things he's stumbling over and causing controversy. Listen, I think Cam seemed a bit loopy there, and maybe he's always a little bit loopy. I certainly think the comments were belittling. You don't call out someone like that, particularly in front of all their peers that way. For Cam not to recognize that speaks to the fact that he's an odd dude, because anybody else could see this coming. I'm jeopardizing my relationship with sponsors. I'm putting myself in a needless controversy. Cam's a weird duck.
To me, this has nothing to do with being grown up or immature or any of the things that Cam is normally criticized for, because there are plenty of very successful men at the top of sports businesses, other businesses, who are successful but still think this way. And to me, it was just another reminder of that, and how easily that kind of came off of Cam's tongue tells me there's some truth, and he really believes in that. He doesn't think that women can be there in the locker room and could possibly know about routes. And I think it just brings up a really important issue that, just like racism, a lot of people don't think that racism is still an issue in this country because it doesn't look them in the face every day. A lot of people have a hard time thinking that sexism still exists in the country because it doesn't face them every day. And for a lot of men, that's the case, because they don't know what it feels like to be a woman being belittled just for doing her job. So I tried to look at it from the woman's perspective and from Cam's perspective. And the first time I was like, oh, I don't know if it's that offensive. And then I listened to it again. And if it was a man that asked the question, he would have just said, I don't really like that question. But the fact that he went so far to say, oh, it's funny when a female talks about routes, then it crosses the line.
Yeah, because it wasn't about routes. It was about, he said, I think it's funny a female
right.
talks about. It's not about the pass routes.
I want to say this too. I think, I don't like actually that Dannon pulled the sponsorship. I don't think we should give Cam Newton a pass. I think he is deserving of all the criticism that he gets today. And I hope that we can, there are people who have done far worse things in this category who have not been called out. There was not this kind of outrage. They've made their brands on this, and there was no outrage for that. I don't think Cam deserves a pass, but for Dannon, I think this is a PR stunt, because no one was going to look at this and say, oh, well, Dannon is still working with Cam Newton. That would never happen.
No, I think he hurt his ability to represent Dan, and women buy yogurt.
For sure, he absolutely did. Yeah. I just hope that Cam looks at the situation, it's brought to light for him, that he grows from it, and that we can all not continue to give mostly guys and some women a pass for making comments like this, because then it's when it becomes acceptable.
Yeah, I said this earlier. Guys have, like Cam, they have to start being more aware. You have to be present in the present moment. And when you see how casual he is, or a lot of other players are casual, they don't understand how you have to be in the moment. You have to be a leader. You have to be a quarterback. You're not coming up there as this dude that's just coming off the couch saying, hey, I'm just going to respond and say how I want to say. No, you're absolutely the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. So when you step up there, you have to carry that type of integrity up there. And so every question that's coming at you, you have to listen to the question and then dissect the question.
Maybe he is. He just doesn't have that mindset to know that that was inappropriate.
I think
or sexist.
No. But Chris, I think Ray's point, which I totally agree, Cam is not about business.
No.
Right. And when you're the face of a franchise, when they're paying you that kind of money, it's almost like being the mayor of a city. And so you have to be quarterbackio, as Colin likes to say. And so he's a leader in that moment, can set a tone for the rest of that locker room. Here's a female reporter. Here's how you treat her. It can send a message to the rest of the team.
Right. I
and he's blown it.
But he doesn't have that tool
set. No, I
set.
know.
And the bigger point that just makes to me is how many people don't have that tool set. So let's point it out, have them learn from it, because what happens, it's just like how racism keeps growing. Mm-hmm. Kids are just raised that way. That's what they learn. And so let's stop, let's call it out, not give people a pass.
But I've literally talked to NFL general managers. I've talked to NBA general managers. They always say, if you want the franchise money, we want franchise maturity. Like, that's part of the game. Mm-hmm. Like, when you sit down with quarterbacks and they do Wonderlic tests and they do interviews, they're probing and they're pushing and they're ticking you off because they want to know, you're going to go to Philadelphia and be the quarterback, and the media is going to clobber you. Can you handle it? Like, to me, Cam's issue is always not big, not strong. It's in these moments, he's immature. He doesn't understand.
If they had lost this week, he doesn't answer that comment like
he got cocky. It felt like he was being
that's what I
cocky
mean.
and weird.
That's what I mean when I'm saying you got to be.
Maybe not this week, but 2 weeks.
You got to be. If guys aren't present with what they're doing when they speak, that's why almost 5 years before I stopped playing, one of the things I would always do was, if I came from a heated game that I know I was going to say something that's not right, I'm going to give myself time to think. I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to get fully dressed. Then I'm going to come out and talk to you. Because we respond so quickly, and you saw how quickly he responded. He just, oh, wow. And so he got caught in that moment, and I just truly believe he just wasn't aware.
Day one with Cam Newton from the Combine, global icon with Peter King, instant controversy. It was just a little off. He's never been about business.
Hey guys, it's Jason McIntyre, and before we move on to the next topic, I want to talk to you about ZipRecruiter. In need of great talent for your business but short on time? You don't have to get lost in a huge stack of resumes to find your perfect hire. You just need the right tools, smarter tools. With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click, so you can rest easy knowing your job is being seen by the right candidates. Then, ZipRecruiter puts its smart matching technology to work, actively notifying qualified candidates about your job within minutes of posting, so you receive the best possible matches. That's why ZipRecruiter is different. Unlike other hiring sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on the right candidates finding you, it finds them. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by growing businesses of all sizes and industries to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/speak. That's ZipRecruiter.com/speak. One more time, to try it for free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/speak. Now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back. Couple of legends, Ray Lewis, Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson. Let's move to Dallas. First time in a long time, I really like this Cowboy team. Try to get back on track this weekend against Green Bay. Dallas's offense has had some problems this year, including a lack of chemistry between Dak Prescott and star wideout Dez Bryant. They've only connected on 40% of their targets, which is the worst in the NFL for receivers with over 30 targets. Whitlock, you think Dak and Dez can figure it out?
It can't get any worse. It's the worst combination in the league, so it's going to get better. It has to. Is it going to get good enough? I don't think so. I think there's something about these two that don't click. Dak immediately, the Dak and dunk early last year, fell in love with Cole Beasley. That may be more his game than down the field. And maybe Dez Bryant has taken a step back. I can't question the wide receivers and people that say Dez Bryant isn't what he used to be. That combination's not going to be the magical combination that I anticipated this year. It will improve, but not enough to make a difference.
It's going to be reunited, and it feels so good. Dak and Dez are going to explode this weekend. So they open with Denver, best secondary in a decade.
Best defense.
I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Then Arizona's corners, great. New York Giants, Rams. Say they can't run the ball, so that's the problem. So now let's take a look at who they play now. Look at the secondaries in the pass defense. Oh, now it gets kind of easy. What do you bet over the next month that I don't see Denver on there. I don't see Arizona. Watch Dak and Dez. Running game emerges, Dak and Dez.
49ers playing tough. Redskins playing tough.
49ers are 0-4, Ray.
They still playing tough defense.
And Atlanta. I just can't trust Atlanta.
I can't trust
Green
Atlanta.
Bay's in town.
But, you know, one of the things is that they're putting themselves in third and long, second and long. Well, last year they'd have second and 2. You got a lot of options. Third and 1, you got a lot of options. When they third and 15, third and 9, you know, it's hard to squeeze that ball in. All of a sudden, we're going to double team Dez. We're going to double team Dez. You know, we're going to take him away. Now, where do you go? Also, Dez and Dak haven't played together long. Only really 17 games. He played with Tony Romo mostly. So it takes some time. And that offensive line is not the same offensive line. They lost the right tackle and a left guard. I mean, when that happens, that chain is just not as strong as it was. I think it'll come, but it's not there yet.
ED knows this, and so I'm gonna say this. We asking what's the problem? What's the answer? What's the answer?
Zeke.
Feed Zeke. You got to feed him. I'm watching these games, and I'm paying, and ED knows this. You give a back like Zeke, 1 carry, 2 passes, 2 carries, 4 passes. That goes totally away from your identity. When you talk about the rushing from last year being down, Zeke was touching the ball probably every first 8 downs, some type of way. And so what does that do? That makes sure a man come in the box, 8-man in the box. It isolates Dez one-on-one, and then the Cowboys get back to what they've always done.
Okay, do we think they've gone away from that because bad play calling or because Zeke isn't mentally there given the offseason he had and all the controversy? Can Zeke handle what he did last year? I mean, not every running back can handle that load year after year after year, and particularly given the headache he had this offseason.
Well, he's only in his second year. And I say it again, losing 2 offensive linemen is big.
Huge.
People don't realize it's big. It's like, oh, you know, why don't you just put the backup in? That's why he the backup. He shouldn't be starting. So people don't realize you lose 2 offensive linemen, that messes up your
Losing
whole,
1 is huge.
Huge. But you lose 2, that messes up your whole offense.
By the way, Baltimore's lost 2 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
It's the worst offense in the league.
Yeah.
Kansas
Losing
City. Kansas City may play without 2 this weekend.
Yeah.
Watch them go down.
No. And you step right into my point. And this is where Eric Davis, who comes on the show, has said time and time again, Jason Garrett's not the same coach as Andy Reid. He's not the same play caller. I was sat in amazement this week Monday night, watching Andy Reid. They lost an offensive lineman during the game, and the running game got better in the 3rd and 4th quarter because they're so imaginative. I don't think Dallas, from the sideline, is as good. They're not Zeke, nor Dak, nor Dez are getting the kind of help from the sidelines that you would expect from an offensive coach.
Dallas, they don't present a problem for a defense. So let me tell you what I'm saying when I say that. When you walk and look at Dallas, They in 2 tight ends.
Right.
They in 1 tight ends. They in regular 2 wide receivers, maybe 3 wides. They're not giving you no funky
Yeah.
Jumbos,
bunch,
What Kansas City is doing with Tyreek Hill and all those was moving these pieces around. When you have to think like that on defense, all you're trying to do is get one defensive person out of position to make a big play. Dallas, you don't have to think to play against Dallas, and I think that's one of the biggest things coming from the sideline.
All right, to Oakland, where E.J. Manuel will be under center for the Raiders while Derek Carr is out 2 to 6 weeks with a fracture in his back. The team seems confident in their backup, with tight end Lee Smith saying Manuel has never had the kind of weapons he has now. Either way, he may be their only option. Look at this. As you see there, Manuel may not be great, but he's miles better than third-stringer Connor Cook. Cowherd, will the Raiders survive without your boy Derek Carr? Will they be a playoff contender?
No way. Season over. No way.
You just got to win 2 games.
Let me tell you something. First
Over
of
the
all,
next
that
4 or 5
division's
weeks.
great. Second of all, they won 9 one-possession games. Why? Because that kid's a wizard. Like, you're going from magical to mechanical. That's what they are at quarterback. They're just mechanical. They're doing nothing special. This kid is Aaron Rodgers 7 years ago. He's not quite all there. He's not quite as accurate. You're taking out the secret sauce, okay? You're taking out the sauce.
Where I really agree with you is Jack Del Rio is a gunslinger coach. Coaches very aggressively because of Derek Carr.
Yeah.
You can't do it now.
Nope.
You can't. And so the whole identity of this team is like, it changes without Derek Carr because now the coach has to back off of who he is, a very aggressive, we can do anything coach. Now with E.J. Manuel, you got to start figuring out ways, and it becomes a much more of an X and O thing more than an identity thing. And so I think it's going to be tough, but this weekend they play your Baltimore Ravens. You got to consider that a W.
Yeah. Who?
For the Raiders.
Listen, it's going to be tough sledding, but I want to point out something that I think we don't think about when you lose a Derek Carr. When you watch on the Raiders defense, Khalil Mack stands out, Bruce Irvin stands out. These boys stand out. From there, that linebacker and secondary does not stand out.
It does not.
So now you have to outscore everybody if you're Derek Carr. But now you don't have Derek Carr. So now your entire game plan changes because defensively, the Raiders ain't stopping nobody right now.
Yeah.
So now they have a bigger problem because this guy who's pulling you out, bailing you out, right, playing heroic football, scoring 30 points a game, now you have to change your whole thought.
Best thing going for the Raiders is who they face.
Yes.
I mean, literally, they've completely lucked out facing the worst offense in football.
Well, they've got the Ravens, they've got the Chargers. That's going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Chargers always play them tough. They've got the Chiefs. That's a loss. They've got the Dolphins. You never know what the Dolphins team is going to show up. Yeah. You got the Patriots. I mean, one thing is the Raiders. You got to remember the Raiders. They don't run the football either. I mean, they got beast mode. They have no running game. I mean, what do you do without a running game? They throw the football a lot. They have a defense that's like, you don't know what defense is going to show up today. So do they make the playoffs? If he comes back maybe in 2 weeks, I have a bad back. So I know the back injury is nothing to mess around with.
You make a nice point I want to follow up on. They should be able, they brought beast mode back. That's who they should be able to turn to, but he's not the same guy.
But it's not there.
You can't sit out a year.
Exactly.
At his size in particular, with his game, I don't think you can sit out a year and come back. Beast mode has been a bust for them, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, it's a different game.
Beastless.
Yeah. It's a totally different game. It was funny. I was out front and we was talking about some old school football, and I was actually wondering would ED ever want to test our defense?
Oh man, come on, dog. Of course, I test it. Just give me a quarterback. Just give me a quarterback. That's all I need is a quarterback in my whole line.
But it's hard to stay out and try to come back and do that, man.
Yeah, no, I just beast mode 151 yards in 4 games.
Yeah.
He was a guy that they were like. There was a point I think last week they gave it to him with 1 yard to go and looked like the same deal in Seattle. All right, welcome back. Eric Dickerson and Jason McIntyre are back. Let's move to the New York Football Giants, who have struggled so far this year, dropping to 0-4 last week. But Odell Beckham Jr. just offered an interesting insight into why the Giants' offense has been struggling so much.
I was talking to Coach today, and the routes that we're running, and the DBs. I talked to him after the game. He's like, "We know you're running a certain route." So it was just me putting extra onto a route to try and create more space.
You said DBs told you they know what route you're on?
Yeah, I mean, they study film. And I was talking to Hargroves after the game, and he's just like, we know a lot of what you're doing.
All right, Cowherd, did Odell just take a shot at Ben McAdoo's play calling?
He did, but it was inadvertent. It was an inadvertent, listen, we knew he was good catching it one hand and with two hands. Now he's good at a backhand. This was the classic, I didn't mean to call you out. And because I mean, when you watch the tape, this is not him.
No.
It's just a mistake, it's a gaffe.
I read this exchange earlier, and it read worse than it actually looked. And so now that I'm looking at it in the way he did it, I don't think he had intentions of throwing McAdoo under the bus, but he did. I think the question was about the drop passes, and somehow it turned into they knew what we were doing. It's a shot at McAdoo, and you know what? McAdoo deserves
By the way,
shot.
Michael Kinsley's a writer. He coined the term gaffe. He said that's when politics inadvertently tell the truth. Sometimes you say things without trying to say things.
You know, Odell Beckham reminds me of myself when I was young, without the crazy antics and all that kind of stuff. If you ask me a question, it was like, look, do you want the truth or you want me to lie? And he just tells the truth because in some games, they do know the playbook. They really do. And it's frustrating as a player. I won't forget, we played the Buffalo Bills, and they were in the backfield before Jeff George could turn around. They said, look, man, Eric, they can't block us, and we know the plays. How frustrating you think that is? And that's frustrating for him also.
Yeah.
Eric, I hear what you're saying. Here's how I'm looking at this. I don't think this is a shot because McAdoo is Beckham's guy. Remember after the Lions loss, McAdoo called out Eli Manning for that penalty. That penalty in the red zone had to force him to a field goal. He called out their two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. Called him out. That was sloppy quarterbacking. Odell Beckham goes to Philadelphia, celebrates. The owner thought it was worth bringing in Odell Beckham. The coach did not even call him out in the post-game press conference. I think McAdoo knows I can't take shots at Odell Beckham. He's my guy. He's the savior. He's all I've got.
I think Beckham is McAdoo's guy.
Yeah, they're working in cahoots.
I don't think McAdoo is Beckham's guy, not as the head coach. I think Beckham and any player smart enough to say, oh, they've promoted you beyond your ability to help me.
Okay.
When you're the offensive coordinator, you're my guy, and you called plays that made me look good. I think anybody in a Giants uniform is looking at Ben McAdoo like he's out over his skis.
You know what's interesting? Generally, we've heard this with Dak. I was talking to Brandon Marshall, linebacker for the Denver Broncos today. And he said, when we played the Cowboys, there was a 45-minute delay. They came back and ran the same plays. And he goes, we were shocked because nothing was working. And my thought was, well, Dak's a young kid. You're not going to revamp something mid-game. You can adjust. What's interesting is, with Eli Manning, you could really run a sophisticated offense. We don't think you can do that with Carson Wentz or Jared Goff. They're kids. What's interesting to me is if Tampa's saying we know your plays, there's no excuse. McAdoo's a veteran coach. Eli's a veteran quarterback. There's no excuse for Phillip Rivers and Eli not running sophisticated offense.
A lot of times, Colin, we think coaches are not running sophisticated offenses or adjusting because of the players. A lot of time it might be the coach just isn't good enough.
That's what I'm saying.
And again, you look at Andy Reid and some of these, Bill Belichick and these guys that can adjust on the fly and get their whole staff on board. Some of these coaches just ain't that good.
What if he's not changing the plays because they can't due to the offensive line? They can't protect Eli. They can't open holes to run. We got to keep it simple. So the Bucs knew what was coming. I mean, he threw only slants in that game. They did not go down the field at all. That's got to change in San Diego this week.
The defense, they watch film too. They watch it very closely. So.
To the National League, where the Diamondbacks held off the Rockies last night to win the wild card game 11-8. Afterward, Arizona went nuts in the locker room with a huge champagne celebration, just like the Yankees did the night before after their wild card win over the Twins. Cowherd, do you have a problem with wild card champagne celebration?
No, it's a ritual. You know, in soccer, you give your jersey to the other team. Like you'll see it all the time in soccer. After soccer games, Messi will give his jersey to.
That's just because they want to take their shirts off.
Oh yeah, show off the abs.
Totally, right?
This is tradition. This is
tradition now. The wild card's not even a tradition. They pulled that out of.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's brand new.
You're right. It hasn't been around for a long time.
It hasn't been around that long. Now you celebrate winning the wild card game,
Listen,
one-game deal.
All I want to do is show you something. I was fishing around on eBay the other day.
Yeah.
This is how much of a tradition this is. Look at this. Nick Swisher's.
By the way, I made it $84. It was originally $5.
Wow. That was after a wild card win, Nick, huh?
Hey, guys, think about it this way, man. I can only speak from experience. Being in that locker room with those guys day in and day out, and to get yourselves into the postseason is such a huge accomplishment, such a huge team accomplishment. Hey, I'm all for it, man. Give the boys, hey, if you win the World Series off the wild card, that's 5 times you get to celebrate that champagne. And you guys have been in those locker rooms, you know how good that burn
Nick,
feels.
I know you're an NFL, NBA fan. They don't celebrate after a round 1 series win or an NFL wild card
But remember,
victory.
those sports celebrate in the moment. Baseball, if you celebrate, they throw at you. So baseball.
Listen, but Colin, there's a fine line between champagne spraying in the locker room and celebrating on the mound.
The NFL this year said more celebrations. The NBA's always been pro player. Baseball's like never celebrate. So when you do win, this is absolutely okay.
I mean, and for the Yankees, this is so unprecedented. Getting into the playoffs, getting to the ALDS. I could see why. I mean,
Nick, you missed it last week. Colin had a good radio show, came back to the locker room, was spraying, and they were like, wait, we got to do speak for yourself.
Sometimes
we got another show to do. And you remember that? You had to tone it down and get the champagne out of your hair.
I definitely can see where people come from on that side, man. But hey, any chance you get to celebrate with your team on an
let me ask a somewhat serious question. Okay. You have all this champagne flowing in the locker room. Not all of it gets sprayed. Some of it gets drunk or whatever.
Close enough.
Does it ever affect you? Because the turnaround's not that you have this wild celebration. Everybody gets liquored up. Right. People hung over 2 days later.
Well, I mean, come on, man. You rise to the occasion at that point in time. You know what I mean? I think that the teams nowadays, man, they're so talented. And for these guys to get to where they are, the celebration, man, it just kind of seals the deal of where you're going. You know what you're up against. You know that you've got 11 more games to win. So I think the celebration is almost like just a reminder of how hard you've worked all season.
It's the desert, man. Baseball seasons are the desert.
Athletes play.
It's a long season, boys.
Yeah, that's not the first time they played